The stage is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so small background. I started modding a year ago. A year ago, I was watching Danae's YouTube series on using the construction set for the first time because I had no idea what I was doing. And yeah, a year later, I can do this. So if you find anything here like intimidating, or you look at projects that other people do and think, I couldn't do that, or just I have no idea how to do that. You probably can. Like anything, it's just a skill. There are techniques, there are tips and tricks, and if you want to make something, you probably can. So let's get stuck in. So I want to give a bit of an introduction around what we're working off here. The main guideline that I've used for learning to do landscaping and exteriors in general is the exterior modding tutorial and exterior guidelines published by the Tamriel Rebuilt and Project Tamriel teams. Those are fantastic resources. The majority of the information that I'll be giving here is it's condensed versions of what's available on that exterior guidelines page, with a few of my own opinions and or things that I think that those don't cover. But those are kind of your Bible for doing vanilla friendly landscaping. I also really like in the Tamriel Rebuilt handbook, they have they lay out five principles that guide their production style. And the first of those is the principle of alienity. And let's get the
Would you like to share your
sharing going.
screen so people can
Yeah.
follow along with you? Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to bring up the how do we do this? We went to screens. We're going to go. Yeah, screen one. Solution, etc., etc. One moment, please, caller. Please hold the line.
Excellent.
There we go. All right, so yeah, so the first principle they give there is the principle of alienity. What is boring and mundane is wrong. What is interesting and alien is right. Morrowind has a pretty unique and captivating atmosphere. It's what keeps us coming back to this 22-year-old game, for better or worse. And a key part of what makes it so captivating is how distinct and alien its environments are. There's giant mushroom trees, there's rivers of lava, ash storms and other phenomena, not to mention, giant insectoid and reptilian creatures. Those things are all commonplace. Morrowind is familiar, yet it's still distinctly alien and garish. However, the principle of alienity has they give the important caveat there, which is alien in excess is mundane. This is incredibly useful for us as exterior designers, as it reminds us when we need to slam on the brakes and exercise some restraint. Because if everything is bombastic, alien, larger than life, everything is fighting for our attention, and the detail gets muddied, it gets lost. So be careful not to overdo things. Learn where to focus your detail and when instead to let things breathe, which gives those unique and magical elements that you've created a chance to actually shine in the spotlight for a bit and allow the player to better appreciate them. That's just a kind of philosophical overview of design. I'm going to go through and show some examples of landscaping. First kind of example, I guess, is just a matter of know your biome, know your region. We're here in Sheogorod, which shares the same, it's essentially the same palette as Azura's Coast. If you're going to be designing an exterior that matches a certain region, in this case it'd be like AC, or Azura's Coast, or Sheogorod, do your research, have a wander around in the CS, have a wander around in game, take a look at what plants are commonly found there, how the rocks kind of cluttered, all the little details there, sort of soak all that information up. If you're doing a Sheer-Gorad environment, don't chuck a bunch of Bitter Coast mushrooms in there or some West Gash rocks. Try to keep some consistency there.
Even though they're so pretty.
Well, there is that,
The bitter
but
mushrooms, they're tempting, they're blue, they glow.
no, lore
We
friendly.
want to use them so bad.
All right, where I'm a lore fundamentalist. Not really, but I think just try to keep some consistency. Now, how do I want to do this? Okay, let's talk about roads. Roads are surprisingly important with landscaping design because they are what you'll be. Construction seems not responding. They're what you're going to spend the majority of your time on. So a lot of detail gets focused around them. So there's a number of techniques for constructing good roads. Construction said having a bad time. Here we go. Right, we're here in the Ascadian Isles region. If we take a look at this road here, here's our boy who's lost his friend to the Kagudi. The mating Kagudi, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so let's talk about what are the kind of elements going on here. So first of all, roads are sunken. They get recessed into the ground, and this does a number of things. One, it just makes it look like the road has actually been used. It's worn. People travel on that. But it also does some other tricks with, I guess, like spatial design. The shape there focuses the player's attention. It provides a point of focus to keep going on that road. Detail is cluttered around the road as well, and as well as that too, you use sight blockers, so things to kind of obfuscate how obfuscate the path, so that you're kind of always wondering like what's around the next corner. It's not just a straight line, a straight corridor that you can endlessly see down. Exploration is a huge part of Morrowind, and keeping that exploration interesting is pretty vital. The roads also will often have little side paths off them, every say 1 to 2 cells. So for example, here we've got this ancestral tomb that's just tucked away off to the side. This is all not to say that you can't have points of detail, points of interest that aren't on roads. You absolutely can, but roads are interesting encounters. And just to talk about detail here, I guess, we've got sort of rock groups and flora gets placed around the edges of that road, and that just frames it there. Okay, move on to the next cell. We're going to be talking a lot about roads. I mentioned they're sinking the roads.
Sorry, while the next cell is loading, that TR model that you use for notes right now, is it something you use also while modding, or you just find it useful for the workshop?
Yeah, I use it while modding as well. It's really useful as a collaborative tool if you're working on a mod with somebody else, and you hand over the project to them. You can leave this note, which is the TR note pin. If you search it up under books, it is note to self, and that gives us one of these, and you can then just create a new object by changing the ID and saving. So that's
Nice.
that's useful for collaborative modding, or in this case for a workshop. Cool. Let's get that next cell going. So do hate how slow the find function in the CS is.
Like the native find function, you mean?
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah, takes forever.
Cool, here we go. So I talked about how roads should always be sunken. It shows that the road has been worn and actually used and focuses players' attention. But sometimes you should not sink your roads. And so we're going to head over to, just outside of St. Arnine here. If you're building a road through a swamp, don't sink your road. If you sink the road, it's gonna end up in here. So roads through swampy marshland, it's better to have them raised above the ground. You can see how, they've sort of followed where the ground would be naturally raised, or you could even show where they've tried to actually build up that ground to carve a path through difficult terrain, through swamp and marsh. That being said, even though the road is raised, there's still some interesting framing techniques going on here. The poles, the swampy poles on either side, do add that framing. It keeps the player kind of on that road, and you can still clutter the roadside with various trees and rocks and points of interest. Right.
Would you, before you start working on an exterior, would you actually look at photos of particular regions, like actual photos for inspiration? Like look at a swamp, or look at a desert, or a glacier, whatever it is you're working on.
Yeah, definitely. Look at photos for inspiration, for real life photos, fantasy drawings as well. That's something you can go with too. But also, I found a great channel on YouTube called Stoneworks, which has a number of videos on world building, and he's got a series there which goes through like specific terrain biomes, and just like how do these things work, and how would that affect your world building. There's a great one on like snowy and tundra regions too, which gave me a lot of ideas for Secret of Vilmun, which I've been working on with Rumbling Vomit. Ideas on what kind of flora and stuff I should be using there in a colder, much colder environment.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are at yet another road, but this time in the Grazelands. And this here, though, we actually want to talk a bit more about how you place your flora. So when you're placing plants and trees and stuff, let's just actually hit the lights. You generally want to place these in groups. So let's take a look here. Got little clusters like this. This is kind of okay, but it's just some wickweed on its own. This though, I love this. So this here we've got a few different plants, a few different wickweeds, and then some of the hackalow, and it's framed around this tree here. When you're placing plants, generally you want to place them near other static objects like rocks, and often too near on or near a change in elevation, and vary your composition, rather than just sort of copying and pasting a few different plants and chucking it around with very little sort of change in rotation.
With this, when you put the plants, are you going to put them mostly in a vertical position? Are you going to follow the inclination? How do you place them?
Sorry, I got distracted by a thing there where it asked me if I wanted to delete source theme and Sphere planes. Could you repeat the question?
Yes. When you place the plants, do you place them vertically? Do you place them perpendicular to the ground? Is it a little bit of both? How can you make it look natural?
Sure, yeah. So the One moment, please, caller. Having this issue with the S key. What's going on here? Right, there we go. I make a lot of use of the Alt key in CSSE. If you hold down Alt and click and drag a static object, it will follow whatever kind of collisionable surface beneath it there is. So you can see here it follows the bottom. And when I'm placing flora and rocks and stuff, you'd have the set snapping axis. Actually, let's take a step back here. I click the Q, click the Q letter Q on my keyboard to bring up the context menu in CSSE. And go into set snapping axis. You can change which axes it snaps to. By default, it's always going to be on +Z, which corresponds to like the bottom of an object underneath. If I change that to Z+, hooray, upside down plant. Not quite so useful for the flora placement. But yeah, generally when I'm
very alien. It looks
well,
very
I think
alien
that's
if you put it upside down. Too much?
alien and excess.
So-
Yeah. That's excessive, and therefore it's mundane. Okay. Let's talk about the composition here. So yeah, vary the rotation and the scale of things, and consider combining sort of a couple of different plants together. Another thing to watch out for is what you'd call bleeding grass. Bleeding grass happens a lot in vanilla Morrowind, and it's when you get things like wickweed here, or something like creshweed. Let's just bring out a creshweed, which you'd find in Shergorod, Azura's coast. And it's when the plant has been sunk so far into the ground that the stem is not visible. And for kind of, I don't know if you'd say fern, this isn't really a fern, but for plants like these, that's not really how they'd work. They would, you'd have the stem still be visible. The leaves don't just sort of sprout out of the ground on their own. So do be aware of that you're not bleeding the grass into the ground too much.
What about trees and the roots?
Trees and roots, and also just like, say, if you're talking about like a flower where they've got a long stem before you even actually get to any kind of leaves and stuff. There's more leeway there. There's more wiggle room with how far they can be sunk into the ground. But generally, you'd still. I try with any kind of any plants and trees that I'm placing not to sink them too far in the ground, just enough to make sure that they're not floating anywhere above ground, and therefore being able to see underneath the mesh where you're not supposed to. Okay, let's go number 4. I think it's 4. I hope it's 4. Otherwise, we'll be doing another cell load.
We're fine. You're
thank
extremely
God.
organized. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay, we're here in sunny Molligamur, beautiful place. And I want to talk about the actual landscape textures. So I'm going to hold down Shift and C to temporarily hide all objects in the render window, just leaving the landscape shown. And we've got a number of cool things going on here. I'm going to talk about the specific textures used first. So the textures that get used here are changed based off the elevation. So on the floor of this is a foyada, I believe. On the floor of the foyada, where lava flow would have gone down from Red Mountain or wherever. Actually, probably not Red Mountain if it's Mogamo. Anyway, lava's been here because the texture used is MA_lava flow. That's used for the floor, And then you can see kind of up on the sides, on the rocky kind of ridge lines, there's a MA Rock 4. And by the way, I'm just going to show you, if you do want to check what texture is being used anywhere in the CS, you can hover your mouse over the area. I've opened the landscape editor by hitting H on my keyboard, but you can also click this here, which will bring up the landscape editor. And you can then, I think it's Control and then right click. Yes, Control right click to then show you in here and in the preview window what texture's been used. So yeah, on these rocky ridge lines, we've got MA Rock 4. And then this one, this texture and this texture look pretty similar, but they are actually different. This is MA Lava 3, and to me that kind of represents, oh, we are doing accidental landscape edits, that's okay, this is just a demonstration ESP. But to me that kind of demonstrates where, this is like the upper limits of where lava flow would have gone down. And then further up again, more texture changes as you get into like the hills here. There's various red mountain rock. You've got the kind of darker textures, and then these lighter, I think it's like the grey rock. No, it's just iron rock. Lighter textures used, and they're used on kind of the more exposed, raised surfaces. Just little tricks like that to help give these mountains some more definition. There's also vertex shading used as well, so that's not a texture, but rather it's where they have gone on to edit colours, and then they've painted the landscape. That's using just black and a very large radius. Don't paint like that, but that's what they've done here, but with slightly lighter colours and a smaller radius. Hopefully we get the chance to go into more detail on that later on. This environment here too, they haven't used static objects to try to like build the terrain. They haven't used massive rocks to try to say actually build the mountain. They've let the landscape mesh do all that heavy lifting for them, and I think it's really effective. The thing with landscaping rather than statics in Morrowind is that when landscape textures meet, they blend together, so you get these nice seamless transitions, as opposed to if you jam two static objects together, there's no texture blending between those two. So I really like the effect where of the landscape doing that heavy lifting for you, because you can make much more smooth, natural transitions. That being said, there is a number of static objects used here. You've got this this dead silt strider here in the kind of crossroads, and that's framed really nicely. You've been wandering on these roads, and then you encounter this, solitary silt strider. It's not like a whole bunch of them. It's just this one lone silt strider. Something that you'd sort of stop and ponder. The other statics used though they're not actually really building up terrain as such. They are accentuating it though. You've got all these pointed kind of lava type rocks that add a lot of character to the scene without trying to build the terrain altogether. Okay, I do want to demonstrate using the landscape editor. We're going to see if we can bust that out really quick, because then we need to move on to actually finishing the exterior of the house that Random Pal built last week. So
yeah,
bear with
we've
me
got
here.
work to do. Before continuing, even though it's lovely to see you, occasionally I think there is a drop in lag, so I would recommend turning off the video just to make sure we get the sound better. But it was nice meeting you.
No worries. I would wave, but I've just turned my camera off. You too, and
We'll
hopefully
imagine
that improves the... Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that improves the speed there. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, let's head on over to Sheergorad 222, and let's see if I can show some real quick landscaping here. Following the theme, let's build a road. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of that. It's not needed. Got our road here. This is vanilla Morrowind. I didn't make this, but let's see if we can sort of extend it and make a little branch off of it here, as if so if we wanted to connect these two landscapes. We're not going to do all that. I'm just going to see if I can quickly demonstrate use of the landscape editor. Okay, so looking at this landscape editor, you've got your edit radius. Majority of the time, you're going to be using edit radius 3. It's your workhorse. You can do most of what you need to do by using that. Oftentimes when I landscape, like if I want to define a path, rather than going wah, 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 doing these big single click drags, I will use my mouse, move it along whilst just tapping, and you can get sort of it's hard to articulate, but think of it more like kind of painting or speed painting or something. You can just follow the terrain a bit better without being quite so blocky and precise with how you do things.
So you do sort of small moving taps to get something nice and fluid.
Definitely, yeah. I do the big ones as well, and especially if I wanted to, let's just do some drastic landscaping here. If I was going to build up a whole island, I'd be doing much larger radiuses. In fact, if I was building a whole island from scratch, you'd go with an even larger radius than 10. You might go all the way up to 20 or 30. But if I need to move a lot of landscape, I will do some very deliberate clicks like that to just raise a bunch of land quickly. Don't try to do that with radius 3. You're just going to have a bad time. Or a very long time, rather. Maybe it'll be fun, but it will be long. Okay. And actually this is useful just to help build up this, I guess, this causeway here. Oh, there we go. Cool. Next I'm going to show you the, just hit Shift-C to hide the environment there. Next I'm going to show you soften vertices. You can select the tick box here to engage that mode, or if you're in the render window, click S on your keyboard to enter soften vertices. We're just staying on that 3 radius, and you can just get rid of all those kind of jagged edges. And I'll show you what another thing here. If you click W on the keyboard,
does it basically sort of calculate the average of all the heights within your radius and give you that?
Something like that. I think it technically does something with editing the fall off percentage, which is something I don't particularly understand. I actually don't really mess around with the fall off. The easiest way to understand it is it smooths it. That's the simplest way of putting it. Yeah, it does what it says on the package, really. Now, what's happened here? I've clicked W on my keyboard to enter wireframe mode, which just shows you the vertices of the land mesh. I hit Shift-C to show all the objects again too. Now we've got everything in wireframe mode, but that's a bit too distracting. The reason I've engaged wireframe mode is to help us identify where some of that landscape is still kind of jagged. These little dips and spikes here. This is a pretty tame example, but if I hit S, maybe we can smooth those out a little bit, and then hit turn off S and go back into edit mode. Let's smooth it out some more. And there we go. So real basic road here. You can go into more detail around tricks for editing it in the exterior modding tutorial on the PTTR wiki, one of those ones that I linked earlier. But let's do some texturing. I showed before how you can sample a texture using the landscape editor. So I'm going to hold Control and then right click on this here road texture, which is AC Dirt Road 1. If you're editing the landscape, you'd be using the left mouse button. To apply landscape textures, use the right mouse button. And we'll just build a road here. It's not particularly exciting, and we're going to see a number of little issues here. So what's going on here? This hard edge, this texture scene, this occurs when 3 or more landscape textures meet. The Morrowind engine does do this brilliant thing of blending land textures together, but it can't blend more than 2 textures at a time. Open Morrowind can do this, but even if you're on vanilla Morrowind using MWSE and MGXE, that still can't yet blend those textures. But that's not the end of the world. It sucks a little bit, but you can cheat. So if I had, you ideally want to try to. Well, I'm glad you asked. Static objects. If you get land texture seams that you can't get rid of, slap some rocks down. Oh, right, that's right, I've still hidden all the objects. There's my rock. Okay. And, oh god, I still had the snapping axis set to Z minus. Yeah, don't put it upside down. Don't do that. Don't say that I said you could either. It's not true. Okay. So I've used Alt there just to give me like a basis of how I might want it to be rotated. And you can just slap these down to cover that same. And you clutter a few more things, clutter some plants and stuff down, and then you can cover those up. There's more to this, but the last thing I'll sort of demonstrate here is the that vertex shading. Vertex shading is actually best done with radius 2. I say vertex shading, but it's actually called vertex color here. You can, like with sampling landscape textures, you can sample vertex colors as well, and actually it helps if I am in the edit colors mode, which I can do by clicking this, or by hitting the O key on my keyboard. And if I control left click on this color here, I get these RGB, red, green, blue color values. You can also control right click to get, because you can like work with 2 different colors, but generally you want to have one of these be just pure 100% white, because that is your eraser.
I see.
So there we go, and white is 255, 255, 255. The specific color values vary between regions, and between, not just between regions, but also between what it's doing in that region. Paths in the Azuros Coast region have the following RGB values, and I'll link it afterwards. But there's a document in the MMC Discord resources page, which is it's a PDF file that just lists all the different vertex color values used throughout vanilla Morrowind and what they're used for within each region. So we're in my vertex color mode, and I'm going to show you how to paint. So I want to outline the shape of this road. Forgive the texture seams, we're not going to worry about those right now because we don't have the time. I'm just going to erase this here just to give us a clean slate to work with. And then, now I could paint by just clicking and dragging. What you'll get if you do that is you'll get some more kind of blocky outlines. If you click again and again and again, so it's just repeated single clicks on one point, you'll eventually just end up with a square, essentially, of the radius you've made. So if I go into wireframe mode, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly. Something like that. Anyway, and clicking and dragging is kind of the same thing. It's applying that color really heavily. I'm going to hold down Control-Z just to undo a whole lot of vertex shading. No, that's taking too long.
How are you selecting?
Oh, just Control-Z.
Control-Z, just like in Photoshop or an editor.
Yes, although actually that reminds me, sorry. I mentioned before how you can work with 2 different colors. This color is left mouse button. You apply it with the left mouse button. The other color is right mouse button. Erase. Sorry, should have mentioned that. So that's me using the right mouse button. This is the left mouse button. But anyway, onto applying application. I could just click and drag, but to me that comes out a bit too blocky. What you can do is you can kind of feather it, like you're painting, by doing single clicks. Why are we even outloading this this path? Hopefully I have the answer, which is when you are painting your terrain, you know, they're in square chunks. That's kind of unavoidable. You can do whatever you can to try to make things look angled, but I mean we can see pretty clearly here how blocky this stuff looks when there's no objects and, you know, full brightness on. But if I go Shift C and turn off the lights, which makes the vertex shading more visible. Oh, the light key being A, by the way, sorry. We can see this road and the textures all of a sudden look a lot smoother. You know, there's curves to this road where before it was just block, 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 you know. The vertex painting helps us to soften those edges. And I find, you know, clicking and dragging, you'll still get a degree of that blockiness. It's okay, but I think it just comes out a bit too bold. But if you sort of tap and you just kind of curve those edges, you can get a bit more fine control about where you're placing that color.
I think a smaller radius is not going to help having something smoother.
That's a good point. Any smaller than that, one, that'll be even worse. But generally, for outlining objects, radius 2 is what you'll go for. You can use radius 3, but if we use that to say just define the outline of a road, it swallows up a whole texture. And then if I want to use it to erase and stuff, it's too big for generally what you want to work for, and you still get the same effect of that kind of precision control and feathering with radius 2, and just being a bit more careful with how you apply those clicks. But yeah, good question.
Speaking of textures, like with vertex color, you can use white to sort of erase. What if you apply a texture you don't like? Can you erase it? What do you do then?
Sure. So talking about applying an actual land texture. So if I applied a land texture that I didn't like, same thing. You can go Control-Z. If you hop out of the landscape editor and do a bunch of other stuff, you know, place or move some statics and stuff, you might find I'm hitting Control-Z now and nothing's happening. And I'm back in the landscape editor, going to hit Control-Z again, and I can't undo that. If you do want to undo,
right. So
specifically
don't close
undo
landscape until you're happy with it.
Yeah, if you specifically want to undo an edit. However, if you don't have to worry too much about, say, like dirty edits, as in if you're making a brand new landscape of your own, you can just choose another texture and paint back over it.
Speaking of dirty edits, we see the list of textures, landscape textures. You just closed it. Would you reopen it? And they have the little asterisks, like, are they dirty? Are they edited? Because those are vanilla textures, right?
That is a great question, and something that will take a longer explanation than I've got time for in this video. But yes, I would love to address that, dealing with dirty land texture edits. Okay, where are we at? We've got 15 minutes.
No,
Okay, I'm going to park.
You do have some time. Don't worry, you do have time.
We're not going to just like end the call immediately when the 15 minutes is up. Oh, okay.
No,
Oh, that's good.
I want to learn more. I'm taking notes.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, if we've got time, then let's do it. How do you deal with dirty landscape edits? Let's open up Enchanted Editor just to show you this. This is, a tool that you might often use to clean some dirty edits from mod. It's reasonably user friendly. I'm here in data files and don't know what. Anyway, okay. Let's say kind of don't want to edit any of these. I don't know. Let's open this just to show you what the interface looks like. Say you wanted to delete some land edits. Landscape edits come under this here, and they look similar to cells, which is this one here. It'll show the coordinates. You can clean cells, just delete cells reasonably safely with Enchanted Editor, but you cannot delete landscape edits not without breaking the mod. The only way to clean, hopefully we can go into more detail about that afterwards, but the only way to clean landscape edits from your mod is either with the construction set itself, or I think TSAME or TSAME is able to do that. There might be another tool, but I've only done it with those two, with the construction set itself and with TSAME. If I wanted to clean dirty landscape edits from this, I've just hit the open folder to bring this up here. Scroll down to the plugin that is active and that you want to edit, and we're going to go details. This brings up a pretty intimidating list of stuff. We can use some filtering with I think it's only CSSE that lets you do this. I can't remember. Either way, you should have CSSE installed if you don't already. And we're going to make this alphabetical by ID. And we want to find land. So we can see pretty clearly these are the only two landscape edits that I've made. They are in the cells -10, -4. Oh, that's interesting. There should have been way more than that. I've clearly just done a whole bunch of edits here. Maybe it's something that will only appear if I save and then close the mod again. Probably. Okay. Anyway, what you would do is they probably still won't show up here until I reload the mod, but I kind of don't want to muck around with that because the CS is being a bit dodgy today. Oh no, here they all are. Cool. So say we wanted to just undo all that work we did, you'd find the cell coordinates that you've been working with. We know that we've been working here in 322 and 222, and you'd so left click it with your mouse and then hit delete on your keyboard, and that will mark them as ignored. Do you want to do this? Yes, I do. It's going to ask you that every time, and you're going to say yes, I do want to ignore that landscape edit. I want all of it gone. You can select multiple things at a time, by the way. Let's go like that.
Do you also need to clean the land textures?
Land textures slightly less problematic, and I still need to fiddle around more with how that works. But generally, you can have these land texture edits in a mod that makes landscape edits, and I don't think it really does anything. It's just a record to say that you've used this texture. I haven't actually used this texture. I didn't apply any of these textures, but even just accessing them in the landscape editor, like left clicking them and viewing the preview, will create a dirty land texture or LTEX record, but they're pretty ineffectual. They don't really do anything.
In fact, so Really, we should clean land edits if we didn't intend to edit something, but we don't need to worry about the land texture because they just appear there because they've been viewed.
Correct. That's my understanding so far. But anybody who understands the inner workings of the construction set and the Morrowind engine and stuff would be able to give a better perspective there. So somebody like G7 or was it Hernchand, Ancient Around the
It's a tongue
all
twister
the
of MMC.
all the MWSA wizards will be able to give a much better explanation of that because I'm not a programmer. I don't know the code side of
No,
things here.
it's my experience as well. The land text is not something we need to worry about, even though it has the asterisk, which is something we go, uh-oh, I've edited something that there's nothing to do there, I think.
Yeah, that's generally going to be the case. We've marked these as ignored, these textures, and they'll have that little eye beside them. When you've finished, when you've finished ignoring all these things, you can go close, and then hit OK. And up until now, we still have not saved any of those changes. They've been kind of applied to the working file here in the construction set, but until we click save, they haven't been saved. So let's go back to 222. That main cell where we're doing that landscaping. And let's see if any of our landscape edits are here. Looks pretty good to me. Even the vertex shading, that's all reverted back to what it was originally. We erased through there the colors, but that's now back in place. That is how you clean dirty landscape edits, and to make sure that those changes get saved, you'll save the ESP. If you make a giant island like that, shovel that up there, especially if you do that in the middle of nowhere, and then if you try to delete the land edit with another tool like Enchanted Editor, what will instead happen is it will actually, how do I say this? Say you've raised a whole ton of land covering multiple cells. That's what I want. So multiple cells have dramatic land edits. And I say, I don't like this cell. I don't like the land edits I've done here. I want to just delete that. And if I did that with a tool like Enchanted Editor and just deleted that cell record, it would delete all the cell records. So
Interesting.
Yeah, make sure you use...
Because it actually deletes the edit, and the edit was across multiple cells, so it's going to remove them from all the cells.
It basically just wipes all your landscape edits rather than just the one cell. Even though it'll if you save it in Enchanted Editor, like the other landscape edits will be there, they'll still show there, even though the one you've deleted is missing. But then if you try to open that in the construction set, you'll find that they've all been deleted. And if this was just default land texture, it'll just be completely flat. If there was no landscape edits to begin with.
Clean landscape edits using the construction set through the detailed window, and we ignore the bits we didn't want.
Correct.
Okay.
Alrighty. I guess before we move on, does anybody have any questions here about what we've done with the landscape editing?
There was a question about the height and whether there was a maximum height. I'm sure there is one. I don't know if you know the number. I know I don't.
Wouldn't have a clue what the number is.
Raise the landscape.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a number, but if you've traveled through Tamara or built and seen the Velothi Mountains, whatever that number is, it's really high. It's
Yeah.
so it's not something that you're going to need to worry about for modding. I mean, the Velothi Mountains are huge, so if
Mhm.
you're making anything that goes that far, that high, the mod you're making is already going to be absolutely ginormous. Because yeah, unless you just want to stretch the landscape in one cell just all the way out vertically, you can do that if you want to,
Mhm.
but why? Unless you're just tinkering around in the CS, in which case go for it. But yeah,
There's that.
it's not something you need to worry about for day-to-day modding.
Sector is giving us a technical answer saying that there is no maximum absolute height. The limit is in how far any two vertices can be. And with MCP, it's 127 units between vertices.
Nice.
Let's simplify that by saying whatever sort of mountain you want to build, you probably can.
Yeah, totally. So essentially, if you need to go higher and higher, you just spread it across more and more cells.
Oh, there's another question. What is the key combination to show cell borders? Is it Shift
Oh,
L or
yes.
something? No, that's light. Which one is
Sorry.
it?
It's B. It's just B. Right.
B. B, thank you.
Yeah, just B. That's really useful, not just for landscape editing, but just exteriors in general
To get
to
an
make sure that
idea of
you.
how far you're editing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also to
So
just try
B.
to yeah, B. Also just to try to reduce the amount of dirty edits you make. If you make dirty edits, you can always clean them afterwards, but it's also easier just to not make them in the first place. If you ensure that what you're doing stays within just the one cell that you're working on, you're going to reduce how many dirty edits you make.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, anything
All
else?
right. I don't see other questions in the chat, and if they come up, I'll relay them to you.
Awesome. Okay,
Also,
we're gonna.
Sector is taking care of the technical stuff. So,
Thank you, Sector. Okay, Sector smart. He knows actual code. Well, they know actual coding things that I do not. So listen to them. Okay.
And by the way, guys,
Whereas,
if you're curious about the inner workings of Morrowind and specifically on how to use test recommend, come back tomorrow about the same time and Sector will tell us maybe not everything we need to know, but some really solid information that will be useful when modding or even when troubleshooting mods. But back to the exterior for now.
alrighty. So I've opened up Random Pal's ESP. I made some minor edits, which we'll be able to see what they are. It's not changing his work. It's just some things to help us while we're learning here. So in the cell view, I'm going to go show modified only, just to narrow down things. Oh, whoops, dirty edit. We'll clean that later. I want to go to RP interior, which is what he made last time. And we'll zoom on in here. Cool. So I've done a similar thing to what he did, where he built the interior in OAAB cells. Except I've copied a bunch of stuff from the mod resource called Tamriel Data Helper. It's not part of Tamriel Data. It is just a mod that somebody made because they liked the OAAB cells, and they've done a similar thing, just showcasing different Tamriel Data pieces alongside vanilla pieces as a demonstration. Okay, here is Random Pal's house, belonging to our lovely little Nord. And this is the building here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's really important. He has or that he doesn't have hair, and needs a hairbrush. That's a whole thing. Okay. this is the house here that we agreed before we started the model on, that we'd use as the exterior house. And this is the interior. Generally, you want to try to match your interior with your exterior. You want to try to make sure that these things have roughly the same proportions. We don't have that 100% here, but it's kind of forgivable, and you will need to compromise. You will need to make these kind of compromises when you're designing your interiors and exteriors. This is this interior that Brandon Powell made is actually Arnasi's. It's the one that he copied from is Arnasi's house in Pelagiad, and that one uses this exact building as its exterior. So in Vanilla Morrowind, already they've got that mismatch there between the kind of size. We're just going to work around it. And as a player, I never noticed that. I only noticed that when we started digging around in the construction set and building this house. So you've got some leeway there. I'm just going to do some tinker with some settings here. One sec. I'm going to reduce the grid snap. We'll be using grid snap a bit here, and I'm going to reduce that to something a little more workable. I like to, just in general, reduce the object rotation and object movement from 1.0 just to down to 0.5, just to give me a bit more fine control. This isn't really going to make a big difference, but we'll tinker it anyway. Just hopefully increase the visual fidelity. And I want to make sure that we are backing this up as we go, so that we don't lose any progress if the construction set crashes. Okay. Looking at these, looking at matching this interior with the exterior, we want to look at what elements are visible, would be visible on both the inside of the house and the outside of the house. That's the doors, the windows, and in this case as well, we've got the chimney. So let's start trying to match these together. The interior door is an in common door wood square, and if we I'm going to go on the static list here, and we're going to search up X common, which will bring up the vanilla exterior common set. And actually then let's go into doors. So the exterior common door is this here. Notice how it is very clearly, obviously, different, but vanilla Morrowind does follow the convention that, like, the interior side of the door would look like this, and then the outside, what you see on the outside, looks like this. So I assume this is kind of like the fancier inside panel of the door, and then this is the rough, weather-worn, exposed to the elements exterior side of the door. So that's forgivable to me. It's okay that those don't match 100%. What we do want to do though is we want to make sure the door handle is on the same side. So I'm just going to flip this around.
Ooh. Nice.
Just to, especially when we're working with, like, we're already dealing with a bit of inconsistencies in the size here.
Mm-hmm.
We can't control that, we can't change that, but we can change this here. So just any little things that'll help.
Gosh,
Yeah,
I'm
little
pretty sure
details
I'm
that help with
guilty of not
conversion.
doing that. Yeah, pretty sure.
I think I'll forgive you. Okay.
Unless I was lucky and they matched, but I've never checked.
I'm just too much of a perfectionist to a fault, so I did notice.
Good. It's good stuff.
Okay. This building here, unlike a lot of other common buildings, has already a little door frame, which is different. It's unusual. Don't know why they did that, but they did, and we can kind of work with that. And so far, that this is where the door's going to go. But I think to me this looks a little bit flat. Tamriel Rebuilt follows the convention that even when they're using X Common Building 2, they still put what you'd call what's generally called either a door jam or DJ in the ID, or in this case for the X Common set, it's just called X Common Entrance. Let's go X Common Entrance 2, I think is what we want. Let's check that. Yeah. X Common Entrance 2. So that's still chuck one of these down. And I think what that does is it just gives the entrance a bit more definition. Like this building, it's got the wooden panel, the wooden boards and stuff, but otherwise it is quite flat and blocky. There's not a lot interesting here. And even when you add the windows and the chimney and stuff to give it that definition, I think having the door jam actually jut out a bit there does help to give that. It looks nicer, essentially. I can justify it all I want. I just think it looks nicer. Okay. Cool. Let's do some more matching here. So we've got the windows. Let's take a look. We've got this kind of bay window here by the front door. It curves out like that. So we want to find something that matches that. We'll go to our resources here. And we've got here the X Common Window 1. Let's go ahead. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate that and drag it on over. So this is a rough match for, oh, by the way, there I just hit C on my keyboard to refocus my camera view around the object I had selected. This window here is a rough match for this interior one. They don't perfectly match. Height of the window panels isn't the same, but these are both vanilla models, and these are the only ones that do roughly match. So it's a visual inconsistency we can live with, and something you wouldn't notice as a player. I'm going to go ahead and jam that in here. I'm going to turn off Grid Snap just to give me a bit more fine control over how I place this. By the way, having turned off Grid Snap, if I just move this around, it's going to do that. Random probably covered some of this, but if you hold down the X key, then when you're dragging and moving the object, it'll stay on the X axis. One sec. Cool.
And thanks to the construction set, we actually see the line we can move the model along, and that gives the X-axis. It wasn't in the old construction set.
God,
it's nice.
It's been for longer than I actually used the vanilla construction set, so I've become just accustomed to these things now. That's funny.
I am so jealous. I wish I started modding now and I could use the construction set, the CSSE. It would be amazing. I mean, I can use it now, but when I think of the years spent in the old one.
That being said, when I started modding and started watching your tutorials, I didn't have a mouse. I was just using the trackpad on my laptop and was using the vanilla construction set as well. It was hell.
Crazy.
So a bit more spoiled now. Okay, let's do some more matching. We've got this window here. Vanilla Morrowind just chucks down a, because again, this is just copied from Anasi's House and Plagueard. They chuck down another type of kind of bay window like that. I think it's this one here that they use. But that doesn't read that way to me. That was the asset they had available. But we've got the choice of other assets now. We are spoiled for choice there. So instead, I'm going to use this Tamriel data window here, which is just two flat planes. So I think that fits a bit there visually. Control V. I just Control C, copied that, and then Control V pasted it. And we're going to chuck it down here. Line it up roughly. talking about that interior-exterior visual coherency, this is higher than what it is on the inside, but its position relative to the things around it is a rough match. So this window on the inside, you can see, relative to the things around it, it's pressed up against the roof. It's very high up, and it's centered. So even though the exact height isn't the same, we can still make sure this is, in roughly the same position relative to the other things around it, to give that that illusion to the player that these are the same thing, even though they're not, and we're tricking them. Okay. Windows. I also agreed with Random Powell would just duplicate this one here, because our little Nord, he's going to have a little more sunlight. He's in sunny Sheergorad, beach capital of Morrowind, and he needs some more sunlight. There we go. So we're going to duplicate that on the other side. Hold X, grab it along. There we go. Cool and fruity. And make sure you can just, check, make sure it's not floating out away from the wall. Cool. And also check that it's not pushed in so far that the wooden beam behind it is sticking through it. That's a good fit. Okay. Lastly, chimney. This is a chunky looking chimney. It is thick. And we don't really have an exterior model that quite does the same thing. Looking at this looks to me like something that, juts out the side of the building. It's not just a fireplace, where the structure is built inside the house. Like, say, if you had, a fireplace that was in the, in the center of a hall or something. It's not like that. It's kind of built into the side of the house. So we want something that also does that here. Let's refer to our X common set. And we've got these here. So that's not too bad. It's much, much taller than we need. He does not need a chimney that long. I'm sorry, Melchior Dark. We don't quite need a tall. We've got a tall Voss. We don't need a tall. We don't need a tall chimney. We'll just chuck that down there. Okay, it's a little bit short. Oh, by the way, fun fact: if you're searching X common or even XCOM, not to be confused with the alien fighting team, XCOM and the filter here, you're not going to find this because, in their great wisdom, the Bethesda developers made this ID XC chimney tall instead of XCOM and chimney tall. But they were using the vanilla constructions here, so we'll forgive them. Okay. I'm going to scale this up. I'm going to make that scale 1.3, just to try to get some sense of how wide this one is. It's still not quite the same, but I can live with that. That's alright. Again, we're just trying to sort of relatively match things. They don't have to be perfect. Just need to give it a rough impression that these are the same on the inside as they are on the outside. Cool. Alright, I'm happy enough with that. Where are we going to put this house? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're heading down to sunny Dagenfell. This Dagenfell, nothing really happens here. This is truly the end of the world, which is why they have a tavern called the End of the World Tavern.
The end of the world.
Indeed. Let's talk about the environment here and the kind of exterior design going on. It's a pretty rough and tumble place. Everything uses ex-Dunmer shacks. Personally, I think that's kind of I agree with like Random Power, where like those should probably be Nord shacks because the majority population here is overwhelmingly Nords. And it's weird that they would use Dunmer shacks. But this is just the models I had available in vanilla Morrowind. They didn't design... Well, actually... sorry. They did have X-Nord buildings, but...
I feel that they were
I don't know.
probably too pretty for this place.
Yeah. Yeah, they wanted to get across that this place is pretty rough and tumble, and again, you know, the end of the world. It's not a pretty place, or at least it's not a fancy place. But there's some cool details here still. Like there's some cool world building going on still. You know, it's built in amongst all these Dwemer ruins, and you can see how the you know the townsfolk have just like taken old Dwemer blocks and just like use them as their doorsteps. And you know, you get that in historical. You know, there's historical instances of that where people will just use like old, you know, Roman blocks from these, you know, these ornate ruins, and they'll just use them as part of like the foundation stones of their houses and whatnot. So we've got that going on here. On to where we're going to actually place our house. So above Dagenfell, there's this cool little grove here, and it stands out to me for Dagenfell because for Sheogorath. Sheogorath is rocky. The overwhelming like landscape textures used are like AC Darkstone 2 and AC Darkstone 1, the lighter variant. It's it's not very lush, very rocky. You've got menhirs for days, just menhir upon menhir upon menhir, and you know occasionally some giant mushrooms and some creshweed. That's the majority of what goes on here environmentally. But you've got this little grove here, and it's got some pod buds, some Flora Tea pod buds. Those are common around Azuro's Coast and Sheogorath. So not weird that those are here. Flora Tree AC1, Flora Tree AC2. There's a 3 and a 4 variant as well. Yep, those are here. That's all common, stock standard Azuro's Coast Sheogorath fare. But then you've got all these flowers up in the back here. You've got willow, stoneflower. Stoneflower you see occasionally in Sheogorath and AC, but not common. But you definitely do not commonly see willow flowers or gold cornet or black anther. So this is kind of a special spot to me. Somebody put some care into this, and also they chucked some lichen on this rock. It's cool, just cool little details. You know, somebody spent some time and decided they want to make a special little grove here. This is where we're going to put our house.
I will say that the lichen is bleeding quite nastily in the rock. They clearly did not pay attention to what you said before.
Yeah,
about placing the plant, not sinking them too much.
Don't worry, we'll get into all of Bethesda's sins that are present in this grove here in good time. I think it's, you know, you got to remember that they were on to like a time crunch as well. So, you know, somebody probably did spend some like time and attention and care here, and then also took a lot of shortcuts, which we're going to address. We're going to, I guess, kind of fix some of those up. Okay. So our house, I'm just going to copy and paste like a brand new house here to show you the scale. X common building 2. This is what we've got, and we're going to chop this down. By the way, I'm just going to hide this. I'll talk about that in a sec. Just a random meter ruler. That is not there in vanilla Morrowind, by the way. There isn't just a giant ruler in this grove.
Well, we have questions about the ruler, actually. Ever since you moved to this window, we're like, what is this?
I thought you would, you people, with your questions. Okay, right. What is this ruler? This ruler is from R0's construction set tools. If somebody wanted to be a saint and just quickly like post a link to that in the chat, that would be very helpful. A lot of R0's construction set tools are already incorporated into Tamriel data and OAEB data. So, for example, one of those, which is really handy, is you can use either one of these. It's the same mesh as this here, which it represents the size of a character, and that upper blue square represents the size of, I think, an Altma, a high elf, because they are taller and their collision box is by extension taller as well. So this helps you to know whether whether characters and NPCs will actually be able to fit in an environment. There's some other tools too, but there's also this ruler. I had to manually add this in the construction set because R0's construction tools don't have a ESP that adds those in automatically, so I just typed in an ID and I found the mesh and where it is. Anyway, so that's what this ruler is. You got I guess centimeters, and then feet. It's somewhat equivalent to measurement distances in Morrowind. I don't know. Either way, it's a measuring stick that I've used to do some measuring.
Makes sense.
Excellent.
The other day, I think it was Prof who explained that he uses the light bulbs with the radius of the light as a measuring tool, which I hadn't thought of, and it's pretty smart. Because then you would have 255 units, whatever the units are, or 512 if that's what you want. That's pretty good.
You mean like the marker, or you mean like the actual light bulbs?
He would drag in a light, any light bulb, and then press, I believe, L to see the radius of the light.
Oh yeah. Let's do that. L.
Is it? I don't remember. Like when I'm in the construction set,
Hey!
that's the.
There
And
we
so
go.
you
Yeah.
know based on the light that this is probably 256.
That is a really good point. I totally forget about that.
You can also use the interior tiles for it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. Let's go back to our house here. So the reason I put this measuring stick is so that I could just, put it exactly where I wanted, because I have pre-planned this. I drafted this out to make sure that it all could fit, because it is a tight spot. And I wanted to make sure I constructed the house in the interior, because I wanted to make sure that when I drag it in here, everything, I can have it all selected at once and stay on that grid snapping. Kind of go into more detail about that in a minute. Where to from here? Let's address some Bethesda sins.
Yeah, sins of Bethesda. Tell us everything.
Gonna hide our handy ruler. The worst offender here is Terrain Rock AC2. This poor rock has been just used and wrung out, because this is a rock that I'm really personally affected by this. This is a rock that, if we zoom that down to a 1.0 scale, go away, 1.0 scale, and I'm going to put that down there. It's a medium-sized rock. It's like a little bouldery type thing that you'd sink into the ground like that. By the way, we need to get rid of this creature here, because we don't want random creatures just appearing in front of this guy's house. Random hostile creatures. If we get our character marker out again, and we chuck that down, so that's the size of this rock. Whenever you scale an object larger in the construction set, the texture is just going to get blown up further and further, and therefore it will become more and more low resolution. And bearing in mind, I'm using intelligent textures by Remoros, so these are already more high definition textures than vanilla. And when you blow a thing up in scale this high, you really notice it in game. And they've not only blown this one up really high, I've done it everywhere here and just copied and pasted that same rock. There it is, 2.0 scale. It's got to go. I could adjust these later, but it's kind of easier and probably easier for mod conflict resolving to just delete it altogether. That can go. Here we go again. This cool little lichen covered rock, and yet 2.0. Gotta go. This is the worst one. They wanted a shallow rock here. That sort of like just sticking out of the ground. The irony is they've got one. They have one already. By the way, I'm like, this is the kind of shortcut I use for filtering for AC rocks, because I know it's just K or CK_AC will get me those rocks. You can type rock AC and it'll bring them up. We've got this one here. This little rock. It's kind of shallow. Nice. If you wanted to get it that shallow, you could scale it up a little bit, sink it down further, and there you go. No, what they did instead is they took this whole thing.
No.
Sunk that down. And that's not okay. We can't allow that. We can't allow Todd to get away with that.
To rocks. Rocks have
Don't do it.
too.
That's right. Okay, so that's got to go. We've cleared a little bit of space here. That's cool. Let's refer back to some of the other things we pointed out. I think you mentioned like bleeding flora. So yeah, we've got a crashweed here that's been lovingly sunk deep into the ground. Let's just dig that up a bit. Cool. That lichen, well, I can say at least it's not bleeding anymore, but now it's floating. So we will place another rock there later, because I want to still have that, but we'll just use something else for it. Crashweed, good God, it's drowning, man. Give it some air, get it out of there.
The truth is, the crashweed, it's a really big model.
It is. I often scale it down.
Massive plant. So it's really tempting to either scale it down or sink it in to make it smaller.
Yeah. No, that's true. I usually do scale it down much smaller. It's pretty rare that I'll have it 1.0, let alone 1.0 scale, let alone anything bigger than that. So more commonly, I shrunk it down to fit it into space. But that's just me. You can, it's a giant plant. It's totally within reason to have it be a giant plant, but just, try not to drown it in the ground. Okay, we've cleared some space. Let's go to our house. Or rather, actually, let me show you what we're going to do next. Slap the building down again. I know I've showed you how to do a bunch of landscape editing, but if you are editing like vanilla Vardenfell Morrowind, oops, we don't need that light marker anymore. If you're editing vanilla Morrowind, you should avoid landscape editing unless you really need to, unless it's, gonna just make the mod really special. A lot of the time you can get creative and work around that. So if I put the house down here at kind of, ground level like this, to try to have the door be at, the pre-built frame of the door here, I guess, be at person height, then I'd be sinking the rest of the house quite far into the ground. And this isn't really how walls are supposed to work. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but if somebody is an engineer, then please correct me, but the foundation stone, I believe, is kind of more what's supposed to hold in the earth around from crushing the house, and then the walls are more to just protect the house from the elements, or protect the inhabitants from the elements, and provide support for the roof and stuff. So if you're sinking it in to the ground like that, unless this is snow, in which case maybe that, you're going to have snow pile up like that. But otherwise, you wouldn't sink your house into the earth like that, at least not with just some wooden walls. So we're going to have our house raised up a bit to make sure it's not sinking that far in, which does present us with something else to address. How does he get up there? Yeah. How do we get up there?
I know. You copy that rock, you make it twice as big. You take 5 of them and you make steps with it.
You're banned. You're not allowed. Oh, I'm sorry. No, okay. No, we will not be
I kind
scaling the
of
rocks
regret I
up
asked
twice as
you.
big.
I was gonna
What's
say
that?
I regret I asked you to. I regret I asked you to turn off your camera. I would have loved to see your face just now.
It was very deadpan.
As
That's
you
okay.
were working out if I was joking or not.
It's okay. We're all fine. It's fine. Okay. Back to business. Back to the serious stuff, because Morrowind is a very serious business.
Yeah, it's not all fun and games.
That's right. That's right. There are rocks that get hurt. Now, I know I tried to sell you on the merits of door jams earlier and how you should use them instead of just like the vanilla shape of the house here. But this door jam presents us a problem. You know, so the ground and the cell we're in before is like kind of up to here. And our poor door jam is going to be floating. And also, there's not any like, say like stone steps in vanilla or OAAB or Tamriel data. At least there are some from like Province Cyrodiil, but they have like kind of more white stone textures that line up with train of thought. They're from like Stirk or like Gold Coast and Cyrodiil. It's a rock texture you wouldn't find in Morrowind, so it's weird to have it. What we're going to do instead is we're going to take a page out of Seydarnin's book. Let's head on over to Seydarnin to Aril's trade house, and we're going to see what they do to deal with a raised doorway that's floating above. They've built themselves a nice wee deck. We're going to recreate something similar to that here, and instead of using an actual door jam piece, they've done some light cat bashing with the XD shack planks like that. We're going to do something similar. I'm not going to use this set for it because to me the wood textures look too, well, swampy. And he may be in Dagonfell, but it's not a swamp. Now back to our interior. And we can turn again to Tamriel data for our pieces here. So we've got there was that X-Common platform set that that was the platforms that were used around Aril's trade house. Tamriel data has this set here, T-Imp set platforms, and this wood texture is it's like the same wood texture that's used on the timber on the houses. I think it's 100% the same. There might be like a darker or lighter variant, but it's certainly the same like wood grain at least. It fits in really tidily. So we're going to build this guy. We're going to build this Nord a nice deck. I'm not Australian. I'm New Zealander. If I was Australian, I would say we're going to build him a nice deck, but I am not. So he's going to have a nice deck. Because we're civilized. Right, how are we doing this? I want a corner piece. Freeway, yada yada. Corner. This is a corner piece. There's also this corner piece. The difference between these is the direction that the like wood planks are going. So, one moment, please, caller. Yeah, cool. I want platform corner S2. And let's just drag it over. There we go.
There's an interesting point made in the chat that kid bashing might add extra references, could potentially slow down your FPS, which is a fact.
Yeah.
And that's my personal opinion. Kid bashing is not necessarily bad. It's bad if you notice it. If you look at something and you go, "Oh, I know that." Like sometimes when I look at older armor, I go, "Okay, they've taken the texture from bone mold. They have the chest part of the chitin armor. They added the pauldron from the steel armor, and so on and so forth." This, in my book, is bad kid bashing, where you can tell it's kid bashing, and even worse, you can tell all the bits that have been put together. In the case of the door in Seidanin, I think somebody has said that. I had never realized that they had kid bashed a door frame. I had never noticed.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, it's acceptable because it's not noticeable, but it also serves a purpose. So I think it's fine in this case.
Yeah, 100%. Like there's good kit bashing and bad kit bashing. I wouldn't recommend, kit bashing on a large scale. Tamriel Rebuilt has, for example, this exterior modular Imperial set, and I tinkered around with this because it was really bugging me how the exterior building didn't match the size of the interior building. So I did play around with can I jam these together to make one to make a house the size that I wanted to, essentially. But even using an intentional modular set like this it will reduce performance. Having a bunch of using a whole lot of objects to make one thing, as opposed to using a dedicated asset. I don't know. It's all you've got to kind of pick your battles. Kit bashing this door frame with some plank pieces. I'll be able to let the kind of result speak for itself when it's done. But it'll ultimately only be 1, 2, 3, 4 objects. That's within budget, so to speak, of our reference count. That's pretty okay. And otherwise, everything else will be stock standard single meshes. But it is a really good point to raise. Don't rely on kit bashing too much. It can look janky, and it can, when used excessively, you're going to be naturally using more objects. So, as with anything, exercise moderation. Okay, where were we? Platforms. I want to platform. Yeah, cool. You've got these little. I'm going to find it easier to actually just search the platforms in here. Here are our platform list. We've got this 128 piece here, so it's a shorter variant. I'm going to snap it together. There we go. You can see how the mesh kind of caspers here, meaning that it's see-through. They haven't textured the end like they have with this part here. It's meant to be snapped together with other objects, and you want to use grid snap to make sure you do get those aligned. Which is why I'm doing this in the interior cell. You can do it in the exterior, but the thing with grid snapping is it's only really going to work if your objects are on right angles. If I try to connect these two together like I have done, but on something that's not a right angle, so 345 degrees, this is fine, that's a right angle, this is fine. Anything around here, we're going to start running into some issues where it doesn't align on the grid. They're snapping on the grid, but they're not going to snap together because they weren't designed to work on that axis. Even if I go into preferences and just like incrementally reduce the grid snap further and further and further, I'm probably still never going to actually make those objects fit. That came out way more depressing than I thought it was going to be. God. Wow. Sorry, didn't mean it. Anyway, just use 90-degree angles for your grid snapping.
You could select those two, place as they are, nicely snapped. If you select both and then you rotate them, are they going to stay in place?
Yes, they are.
There's the workaround.
That's right. That's what we're going to do. Because of the house where I'm going to place it, back just beside Dagenfell, it's not going to be on a 90-degree angle. So I want to when I place this, I want to actually like click and drag this whole thing there. But yeah, if you grid snap these together, and then I can take it off grid snap altogether and just rotate this around, they will stay together as long as I don't independently move them away from each other. Delete. Cool. We need something to cap this off. I need an end piece. So TMset platform end. There's end 1, just like that. There's also end side. End S1. We're going to go for just end 1. Oh yeah, I've got grid snap off. Oops. There we go. Right. Cool. And let's just shove it along there. It's going to kind of bother me a little bit how these holes are going to stick out the side. But I think I can live with it. If I had more time, if I was just making this for myself, I would spend an obsessive amount of time trying to make these work. You could also try to use group scaling, but so group scaling is changing the scale of multiple objects together, which you can do with CSSE. I've got use group scaling enabled, and ideally that means you should be able to hold down, I think, just S and scale them together. But if you look really closely, when I release my mouse, they pop apart like that. And here's the other thing with grid snapping is objects designed to grid snap together will only do so if they're in increments of 0.25 scale. So if they're at 1.0 scale, they'll fit together. You can snap them around, make them fit. If they're at 1.25, I can do it. But if they're anything else apart from that, my experience has been that they won't fit together. There we go. So you can still neatly do that. But yeah, if I group scale it down, I lose the control over them snapping together. And I mean, if I really can't make it work, I would just like I'd do that. I would just put them together. We don't have time though. We don't have time. So we're gonna live with it. One, try back there. Right, there we go. Helps if I have grid snap back on. I'd love if there was a just throwing it out there. I'd love if there was a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut to turn grid snap and angle snap on and off. But it's a tiny quality of life thing. You can just click the buttons with your mouse. But that'd be cool.
Go into MMC and head to the MWSC channel, ping Null Cascade, and chances are, if it's doable, the next update or the next update of CSSE is going to have the feature. There's been so many new features, just people saying, hey, it would be nice if, and then It happens.
and then they deliver. Yeah. All right. Cool. That's this is our house so far. So let's actually put it where we want it. Okay. Let's Control C that. And let's head on down to sunny Dagenfell. Okay. Moment of truth, and this is why I have the ruler. I'll turn off grid snap, but I'll keep the angle snap on because I want to make sure it does still go on the right, not the right angle, but the specific angle that I want it. Oh yeah, press B. Yeah, whoops, totally just I just copy and paste it into the Dagenfell cell, so I just made a dirty edit there. Watch me make dirty
It's
edits
okay,
live.
we know how to clean them now.
We do. You'll know even better after Victor's tutorial with TS3 command.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And I want to have it about here, I think. Let me check my draft. Zoom. I've been lying. I've had another window of the CS open this whole time with my my draft showing the completed building, but you won't see it. That's just for me. But you will see the final product, and hopefully, if you mod along with this, because this is the mod along, you'll be able to play around and make this too. And also the ESP will be released afterwards as well.
Yeah, it will be in the Mod Along Challenge channel with everything that MassiveJuice has added to the plugin.
I'd encourage people to review the ESP each time that we release them. But it's a really great way to learn by then trying to recreate it alongside, because then you get that feeling for how to move the objects and stuff. So if you had a second copy of the construction set open while kind of recreating this, and while rewatching the video, you can, if you're having difficulty placing the house exactly where you want, you can just double click on the object and say my ESP and copy and paste the coordinates. So there's little things you can do there as well. Okay, here's our house, here's our deck, and we're going to put some steps up to the deck. You've got a smaller variant and a larger variant. We're going to go with the larger variant. If I was making a landmass, if this was an island I'd sculpted, if I was a part of Tamriel Rebuild or Project Tamriel, I would, possibly just solve this with landscaping. But we're editing Vardenfell, and mod conflicts are a real thing, so we want to try to avoid them. So in this case, we're just going to actually just use these steps and use this deck like we've done. Cool.
Honestly, in this context, the fact that we're trying to avoid unnecessary landscape edits to be compatible with any other mod that might ever do anything to Dagenfell and the surrounding cells, this led you to adding this deck, which makes the house more interesting and more unique. So working with not handicaps, it's not the word, but working with constraints is actually a great way to get your creative juice going.
Yeah. You're presented with a problem and you have to come up with a creative solution to get around it. Absolutely. Okay. So we've got this house. Let's do some detailing. I'm gonna start by just I said we'd address some of the Bethesda sins. So we're gonna do a little bit of that. This is mostly fine. These pod buds don't, I think, look too bad if they're sunk reasonably far in the ground. I think they look weird if they're too far out, to be honest. Also, bad texture, UV there. I'm
Somebody raised
using
a good point earlier when you were raising the crash plants, because yes, they are sunk a little too deep, but Bethesda devs were pretty consistent about sinking their crash weed deep into the ground. So even though yours makes more sense, from a biological standpoint, it might actually stand out more than what we're used to.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've been working on, like, the main thing I've been doing has been working on this landmass mod with Grumbling Vomit this whole time, where I have individually placed all the crash weed. So I do have a bias there, because what I'm seeing most of the time is actually how I've placed these and not how they're placed in the vanilla game world. Yeah, I'm not the sole authority on this. This is just my experience and opinions, and yeah, my attempt at trying to relay the kind of collective wisdom of like the Tamriel building Project Tamriel teams that I understand. Bearing in mind, I'm not a member of those teams. Sorry, I should probably make that really clear. I'm not a part of those. I would love to be in the future, but I'm not. This is just my interpretation of this stuff.
That's fair. I was merely playing the devil's advocate, because ideally everybody is going to start placing their crash weed properly like you do. And then the norm will be what it should have been from the beginning.
Yeah, they'll do it the right way, my way. That's the only right way, of course. Anyway, what am I doing here? Sorry, we've been going on for ages, so I'm starting to lose focus a little bit. Where are we?
Sorry.
I want to.
You were
No, that's okay.
moving those pods, hiding the ugly textures, but not sinking them too much either.
Yeah. Okay, what I want to do here is clear a path around the back of the house, because I do like this little grove thing that they had going on here, and so we're going to make that like his backyard essentially. So I just want to make sure that there is a navigable way for the player or NPCs to be able to get around there. So we're just going to move some of the stuff a little bit out of the way. That's all. It's fine as it is. These pod buds are mostly fine. They do all have just like upright rotation, which is, in fact, they've even got the same Z rotation. Oh, Bethesda. If we can, hold the Alt key and drag it to add a bit of variety. It'll help if we turn off the angle snap. My workflow for placing plants is, majority of the time, it's, unless they're a plant that needs to be fully upright, I'll drag it in and then hold down Alt whilst moving it around to kind of do the randomized rotation for me. Also, if you rotate it on the Z-axis first and then hold Alt and move it around, that Z-axis rotation will be factored in when you then hold Alt and move it around. So yeah, that's a really great shortcut to do some of that randomized rotation for you, and then you can just do some touch-ups later and make some minor adjustments to the scale and whatnot, just to add that variety. You don't want things to just look completely copy-pasted. This is actually too big for that navigability. And I'm going to get my character reference down so we can see how much space we're working with. Let's just click F to drop them. Okay, there they are. Okay. If it was like vanilla collision box, the worst it would be that. So that's fine. That's plenty of space. The blue thing around it is the collision box.
Collision.
Okay. This crash weed here, I did move it a little bit earlier. We're gonna go like this. And one thing I like with crash weed is, because the leaves stick out like that and they have no collision, is you can use them to like kind of cover things like cave entrances. You can have them sort of encroaching in on the path, as if you're sort of trying to wade through them, pushing these leaves aside and stuff. So you can create some cool little ambience, I guess, that way. And yeah, let's pull it up a little bit like that. Cool. Moving around the back here. So we're just focusing on clearing this path. These plants, I'm going to keep most of these, but I'm just going to move them because, again, we pointed out earlier how it's unusual that these plants are here. These plants that you normally find in, like the Ascadian Isles. So I'm going to go with maybe our dude here's got a garden. Maybe that's why these plants are here. Maybe that ruins the uniqueness of this grove a bit, but that's what I'm going to go with. There we go.
Ideally, whoever makes a quest for this interior and exterior that you and Random Bell have created, whoever that is would have to try to include maybe some elements that explain why there's a little garden. Maybe our Nord with hair has actually loves gardening. He's got a bit of a green thumb.
Yeah, maybe.
We can weave that in the story somehow.
Yeah. At the same time, too, like, not every element needs to be explained to. There's also, like, show. You gotta remember, like, show, don't tell as well. So some of these elements you can just let the environmental world building do that work for you. But also, if you're going to do a whole bunch about environmental building and be like, okay, he's got a green thumb and stuff, he likes gardening, but then you decide he's a roving, rampaging barbarian who just lives in a tent and isn't settled and doesn't have any gardening tools, and the story revolves around him going around and fighting a bunch of people. Well, maybe your environmental storytelling has kind of failed there, or your quest storytelling has failed. You want to have these things be working together. Cool, I'll just chuck this in here a little closer. These can be kind of annoying because with this crash food mesh, the kind of actual like blossoming one, the leaves are really, really long. So it's really hard to like have them not stick into rocks or just the ground or anything. It looks really cool, but it can be quite hard to fit into small spaces. But we're just going to go with that, and I'm going to, I don't know, I guess we'll just vary that rotation ever so slightly. And I'm going to keep it at, it's at 0.91 scale. That's big enough. Don't need the ruler anymore, so we can delete that. And we've more or less cleared the path. I talked before about how some objects you shouldn't vary the XY rotation for. Emperor parasols are a perfect example of this because they've got here these cool little hanging vine meshes. I don't know what these are really, but they hang down vertically because gravity. And if I then try to, rotate that around, well, those things aren't going to move. So it might look cool to have the mushroom be, hanging over like that, but it breaks the immersion automatically because these things don't follow that. The mesh doesn't, it doesn't work that way. They don't move away from their rotation. Anyway, I think you get me. Keep your mushrooms vertical. You can save your fancy XY rotations for the Flora Tree AC meshes, for example, which you can have some fun with those. Okay, where are we at? Cool. Let's start adding some of that detail. I'm just going to hide this for now. I'm going to build up the bottom underneath here. It's a deck, but it's just a little bit too kind of exposed. To me, I want to build up that foundation a bit more. So I'm going to do that with some rocks. Let's go rock AC. And let's just say, I don't know, AC 11. Rocks 6 through 12 are like all the massive ones. And everything before that is they're a bit smaller. I'm going to shrink that down a bit. Give me a rotation to work with by holding down Alt, and then we'll chuck it in. Chuck it in there roughly like that. Let's go with that for now. We can edit it later if we're not happy with it. It's just a rock. Well, it's not just a rock. I may express my deep concern for the plight of the AC2 rock before. I'm sorry, rocks. I didn't mean to say that. Is that the same one? I totally did just grab the same one. Damn it. Okay. Let's go number 9. 9? There we go. Vary your rotation and vary your scale. There we go. Now, I don't know if you folks are having fun, but I love this, man. Like, choosing these rocks, placing them just perfectly, moving around. You know how many hours I spend doing this? So much time. But we've all got to have a hobby. Mine just so happens to involve a lot of...
You know, we were laughing
rock
about
placement.
it, but truly cluttering, whether it is placing rocks or putting plates on a table in a construction set, for a lot of people that I've talked to, they say that there's some sort of a like meditative nature to it. It's a great way to sort of tune out and relax.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a page out of Dagenfeld's book again. Remember how, you know, they've just taken the kind of Dwemer rubble from around, and there are a lot of Dwemer ruins dotted around Dagenfeld and Sheergorad. They've just taken that rubble and just like incorporated that into the foundation. We are going with the idea that this Nord is a Dwemer scholar. But as far as Dwemer artifacts go, a foundation stone is probably not that important. So I think it'll be okay if there's some built in to the foundation of the building here. Sort of dot these around, sink them in. Unlike flora, rocks is pretty fine to... You can get a lot of variety, you know. You might have it sitting right on top of the ground, or you might actually sink it quite a bit down and have it just be barely exposed. Play around with that and come up with something that you like. We've got X-Dwarf Boulder as well. Varieties of these. I want to go for something smaller. Sure. Let's go with that. And just sort of scale it right down and just tuck it in. Cool. Where to go from here? We've got our path around the side. So what's happening down the back of here? Hey, I thought I deleted this. There we go. Now it's definitely deleted. Won't come back. Unless... Anyway, no, it's not coming back. What do we want here? One thing with the interior is I had the stairs coming down the back here. So I'm going to do a little bit of like kind of building out the house. Let's go house shed. Oh, sorry, knocked the microphone there. X-Nord house shed. And just tuck that in. The X-Common and X-Nord tile sets are kind of like companion tile sets. They're not... I don't know, they're distinct separate tile sets, and generally generally the X-Nord tileset denotes a more working class, rustic, and less upper class type of folk, but you can still add some little details here. You've got leeway, like a lot of these things. So this is just a house shed, and I want to. I think of this as like, this is just part of that roof, part of the stairwell going down, I guess. Cool. And then we've got this kind of exposed bit of foundation here.
Sorry, I must say with this
Go for it.
particular model, the two stone textures are very, very jarring. You know, the line between the two. So if it was sunk where only one texture shows, but then I'm not sure that it fits with the interior where we have those stairs sort of sticking out a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And then there's the roof also.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of different.
We could leave it because we don't have one that
modular,
matches us.
Yeah. Maybe something with the modular TR set. They have so many pieces. But anyway, that's the idea of having a little bit sticking out, because indeed we have the stairs sticking out, is great. And then we can play around with pieces and choose the one that looks best.
Yeah, this might actually be a good.
This one will do the job.
It could actually be a good opportunity to use that modular TR set. I'm gonna, just so we can wrap things up. I'll go with this for now, but I encourage you to like have a play around. If you want to use something else for that, or get rid of it altogether, if you're following along with this, go for it. Yeah, have a play around with the tile sets. We're just going to use this for now, and I'm going to chuck one more of these platforms down too. So I'm going to go Control D to duplicate it, and we'll chuck it down around the back here. Maybe just like that. What did I do originally? Just referring back to my guide. Yeah, I did that. So that's same elevation. Is it blocking the path? Kind of has a little bit.
Wasn't there one corner that doesn't have the pillar sticking out?
Yeah, although that's the corner that has the Caspering bit there. Reduce the scale a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That'll do. Kind of annoys me, but we'll go with it. This damn mushroom keeps getting in my way. You can hide it. I'm going to hide it for now, just while I work with this. I mentioned a garden, so okay. We've got the lichen here, we've got these plants. I'm going to move these pod buds over a bit. Get them out of the way. Shrink it down some. These are Morrowind optimization. Or maybe they're not. I don't know. I've got Morrowind optimization patch installed, but I don't know if pod buds are covered as. Oh god. No. I don't know if pod buds are covered as part of that. But if they are, it might be worth noting the UV, the stretched UV texture there. Moving these along. Cool. Let's spread these out a bit. Nope, it's too far. It's all a bit of a mess of plants right now. I want to do some more of that, incorporating the Dwemer ruins into the architecture. I mean, who knows? Maybe the guy didn't even buy the house. Didn't even make the house himself. Maybe he bought it. You know, you can't buy houses in Tamriel. And for that, I'm going to use an X-Dwarven wall piece. Let's see what does this one give us. This gives us a kind of curve. We could go shrink that down, right down, and maybe it's some remnants of bits that were then get kind of used as like a makeshift garden wall because it just adds a natural barrier there. Where's this one? That's too big. Way too big. There we go.
Nice. So we got this natural little gate to enter the garden.
It covers up the detail of the trim at the bottom, but I will sink this a bit because I want to make these be like very sunken, very irrelevant to Morrowind. This is not a point of maybe it's not a point of particular archaeological interest. These are just maybe the area had already been raided, plucked clean by looters and whatnot already. So these are just some leftover kind of foundation stones. That's what I'm going with. And then we'll just place these around.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If I was making this as a garden, like a tended garden, I would be very, 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 very tempted to change the texture to some tiled earth.
Like the landscape texture, you mean?
Yeah. Would that be a nice or like especially with the squares and we risk having those seams?
It's certainly something you could choose to do, and it can look great when you pull it off. But we do have to be aware of what you mentioned there. We've got limited space to fit in new landscape textures, and we do again want to avoid those landscape changes as far as we can. You can, if you're editing vanilla Morrowind, you can get around this with some static objects. If I could spell, I might be able to get farm. And OAB has these grazeland farms, for example, which are kind of terraced. And these are great for it. They've got vertex shading in the kind of tilled land already to make it, look like shadow. So if you place plants along there, they're not going to look flat or out of place. They'll look like they're meant to be there. And if you wanted to, if we wanted to use this for Azura's Coast, because this is grazeland rocks, we could take the model and we could retexture it in Nifscope. The permissions are open from OAB to be able to do that. But I think we can get away with having this be a pretty rustic, not very tamed garden. We talked earlier, Randapal talked in his stream about how he's annoyed, he's a little bit messy, it doesn't all have to be perfect. And I think I'm okay here with this being a pretty rustic, messy garden. I mean, hell, maybe you found some of these plants growing here already and you just kind of kept tending them and planted a couple more.
The bottom line really is to try things, see how it works, see if you like it, see if it fits with the sort of story you're trying to tell. There's really no set rules about what to do and what not to do, apart from taking a tiny rock and scaling it up and then putting
That's
it
a hard
everywhere.
rule. 100%.
This one is a hard rule.
Yeah, Nexus mods will actually ban
aside,
you if you do that.
Yeah. Joke aside, just try things. See how it is, and to go back to what you said in your introduction, avoid adding to it to make it more special because it becomes less special. But try things out until you like the result.
Yeah, don't go too overboard. Just try to exercise a bit of restraint. This is what I'm going to use instead of that AC Rock 2. Here, somewhere to put that lichen, and also just kind of frame the edge of that foundation wall. I'm not
You're
going to worry
using
too
the
much about
word
changing the scale.
frame?
Yeah.
And you've used the word frame quite a bit at the beginning when we were looking at the Cascade, and I was just like, oh, the tree is framed with the rocks. Framing, I got a sense that it's an important notion.
Yeah, I think of it as you're composing a space. We're not dealing with a 2D picture. If we were, then the framing would be like just the frame of the 2D composition. So you might look at it and judge the elements if you know anything about sort of photography composition or painting composition. I don't know a ton about it, but there's that. But we are dealing with a 3D space, so the composition is a little different because the characters aren't going to be, the player rather, isn't going to just stand in your little snapshot. They're going to explore all the way around the place and check out every single angle. So framing, yeah, I think of just focusing the area of attention in a 3D space. So yeah, this framing here, I think of it as just, it's kind of hemming the space in, adding a bit of definition to the area, I guess. Sorry, it's all very wishy-washy words that I am using because it's not a hard science. This is a lot of, there are techniques and there's also just a lot of like judgment calls and personal taste.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've demonstrated already, like my personal taste around how far you even just like sink the crash weed, you might disagree with that. And you wouldn't be wrong in doing that because as we've demonstrated, Bethesda did do that with the crash weed all over the place. Holding Alt to move these along here. There's a little bit of bleeding through that. I think it's okay with these meshes because if you have them come fully up, they kind of just look like floating cabbages rather than like some lichen. So I think a little bit of bleeding is okay and sometimes unavoidable because if you really try to get rid of it, you're actually just going to have like a floating mesh instead. But you don't want it to be like that. Also, bleeding grass, TR devs and such I've heard them talk about how flora bleeding through other flora isn't necessarily the worst thing. Leaves bleeding through other leaves is kind of okay because then they're just like densely packed leaves, but through rocks, a little bit rough, a little bit messy, but that's okay. And we've just lost the camera. There we go. Right. I want to wrap things up pretty soon. You know what? I talked for ages about that door frame. We didn't even make the door frame. Oh god. Okay. Plank. That's what we want. Let's make a plank. No, let's make a door frame from planks. Let's get it in. Oh. Here we go. Right. I'm going to turn the angle snap on. Lift it up. And we're going to see what it looks like with just even like 1.0 scale. And flip it around. Nope. If you want to quickly flip an object to be like standing it vertically, for example, just play around with the rotation coordinates in the static object window. So you figure out how you make it work. There we go. That's what I want here. Duplicate. Make sure it is. I want it to cover the kind of existing door frame that's there, but make sure it's not covering the door handle. Do it out a bit. And push that forward. Cool. That's a rough and ready door jamb there. That just adds a bit of definition to the definition to it. And you can also do. I've got these poles here. You could like make with these planks. You could make a little fence if you wanted to as well. Just to demonstrate, you could go. We want here plank 4. Yeah. Flip it around like that, and scale it down, and you can chuck it in like that, and you can just keep the rotation the same. Like I could just kind of go like that, and then you've got a fence. But don't be afraid to add little imperfections as well. Even with something that's meant to be like the interior of his house is it's a rich common interior, so he's clearly got some money, but that doesn't mean that the woodworking has to be absolutely perfect. And if you are going to be kit bashing, like in this case here, we are just using some planks to like kit bash a fence. You can add little tiny variations in the rotation, just to show that it's like not 100% perfect. Sometimes to do that, to get it to be believable and be ever so slightly off kilter, not, this wasn't made by a goblin, right? We don't want them to be like total all over the place. We want to have it to look like maybe this is just some natural warping. You can just reduce the object rotation, object move to give you a bit more control over that. And you can even like jump in here and tweak those values even more. I go like 3.9.0. And, it's a detail that it's small enough that you wouldn't really notice it as a player, at least not on a conscious level. You might just see that it's ever so slightly off kilter. But little details like that can just help, I think, to make the world look a bit more alive. Wood can warp over time. Have a play around, see what you can do. We can duplicate these, chuck them here. Push it in so it's just against the wall here. This is much rougher than I'd like to. Again, if I kind of had the time doing this on my own, I'd have that be hidden or have it be coming out of the wall more. And for this here, maybe I'd sort of keep the rotation the same or flip it around a bit. And you can do the same thing on the other side. Hem this in here. By the way, that crashweed there, we've got to do something about that. It's the crashweed in the room. Oh my god, did I? No, go. Sorry, I thought it was an AC rock too for a second there. I was thinking, did I miss one? Do we need to delete it? No, it's okay. The rock's fine. Cool. Right. I mentioned before how these ones are really hard to fit in tight corners because of just how far these leaves point out. So I'm going to replace this. We'll still chuck a crashweed down, but we're going to go with one of the other ones. Let's go with crashweed 3. It's a bit more cooperative. I say that, but actually it might still be annoying. Totally is going to be annoying. Right. Crashweed 1 it is. Yeah, cool. A few less leaves. Less leaves, less worries. There we go. Yeah, I say that, but of course it's still going to be really annoying. And I'm even going to scale it up slightly. Live a little. Mix things up. I want to have a similar effect here as to what I talked about on the other side, where it's kind of bleeding. It's well, not bleeding through in that sense, but it's, you know, the leaves are poking through underneath the fence because, you know, I don't know. He's just a Nord living by himself. He doesn't have a full-time gardener. He does it himself, and he's not the tidiest person in the first place. So things get a little overgrown sometimes. Okay, how's that looking? Still clipping through that fence a little bit. There we go, fix that. Is it clipping through anywhere else? No. My god, is it?
The little mushroom tree.
Yes! Clipping through the mushroom tree? Well, thankfully I know how to fix that. There we go.
Perfect.
Voila. Bone apple
And
tea.
this is how it is done.
Thank you. This, it's a little shrunk. Sure, we'll lift it up. And no, it's bleeding. That poor plant's bleeding. Okay. There we go. There we go. Some pretty lazy placement there, but we'll go with it. Alright, I'm going to call that wrapped up here. There's more detail that you could do. What I would encourage is if you follow along with this and want to add some more details yourself, try to add some things to make it look lived in. You know, we've talked about, like, he does some gardening, so okay, well, is there a shovel? You know, is there a shovel lying around? And you can find a shovel under you can actually find it under weapons, but you know, W tool shovel, and you can, nope, I don't want to edit it, I want to go like this, and you can just like flip it around, stab it into the ground. You know, it's kind of leaning against the wall. Shovels can be bled into the ground because, you know, that's what they're meant to do. Okay. There we go. You could, you know, when I was drafting this, I stuck like a clothesline going across here from the house to the tree. You can find those in, I think, in statics. It'd be like clothes. Yeah, there's T-Fair variety clotheslines. There's some OAB ones as well. I can't remember what the ID for those are, but they're slightly different and they have a different ID. But, you know, you could do this here to add some detail. Just to show that, like, this place is lived in. It's not just a house. If he's got a washing line, maybe he's got maybe he needs a stool to reach up there. You know, what's a little Ferncom? What would be the kind of stool we want?
And there you play along with it, and say, oh, here's a bit of a messy Nord. Maybe there's a bit of cloth that fell from the line, and it's just been there, some rumpled piece of clothing. And essentially tell yourself a story and see how much of the story you can write without using words.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's that environmental storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even find the right stool I want. What did I even use here in the original one? Oh, Ferncom PM still too. Can you really tell me what the PM stands for? Actually, don't know that. Don't know.
I mean,
anyway.
do a common ridge? No, I don't know what it stands for.
Yeah. Don't know. But anyway, you could, yeah, place that here. Chuck a bucket down on top of it. Maybe that's where
middle,
it's laundry from.
maybe,
Poor middle. Yeah.
which would make RM rich middle.
Oh, that's good to know.
I'm not sure. I'm just going along with what COOK is suggesting.
Yeah, no, it's not out of reason. That's totally plausible. But yeah, little details like that you can make a little scene. This is pretty slapdash placement with a lot of the stuff. I'd probably place more kind of rocks and little bits of rubble and stuff around the place, but I'm tired. I think I want to wrap this up soon.
It's fine.
Yeah,
This
we've been going
plugin,
for a while.
as MassiveJuice said, will be in the construction set as is, so you can have a look at everything. Later on, we will add a quest to it, and then even later on, Random Bell, MassiveJuice, Sealoff, because he'll add the dungeon, and myself will take a look at it again and do all those little things that we didn't have time to do in the workshop, and then publish that. So even then, you could take a look at what can be done in a couple of hours, and then, the finished product once we've spent quite a few more hours working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. One moment, I just want to leave one really important detail. Go like this. Okay. I can't spell fairy. Fairy. There we go. There you go.
He was.
Create a new object. Although he wasn't actually. He didn't join us for the stream, which is sad, but you'll get more Rupert photos, don't you worry.
Good, good.
There we go. Lovely.
All right.
Let's,
and there we have it.
yeah.
As Detail was pointing out, we would have to connect the door, the interior to the exterior. That's something that we'll do later on.
Oh, God, yeah, good point.
You want to show that real quick?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. I kind of suck at doing north markers, as I learned when I tried to do this one. But we'll do it. We'll give it a go.
Just
so this
show how to connect the doors. Random Pal did mention the north markers, I think. So just
you're right.
How we connect it.
Cool. Just stop streaming. Go. Oh, did I? Whoops, wrong one. Accidentally hit off screen share. Sorry. One moment.
That's all right.
Cool. Screen's live again?
Here we go. Yeah.
Okay. We've selected our exterior door. Double clicked on it. And we're going to select the teleport checkbox. And under load cell, hit the drop down menu. You could scroll for days, but bear in mind this is a list of every single cell, both interior and exterior. If you know the ID of the cell you want to go to, or rather the cell name, you can type that in. So I know that it's RP interior. You can even type in the underscore, hold shift underscore, and it'll register that. It won't let you actually type into the text box like a text box, but you can go, RP underscore, and it'll bring you close to, if not exactly, to the cell that you're wanting. And then we then just go select marker, and this will take us to the cell we've put here in load cell, and it'll give us this here. Fun fact as well, I mentioned R0's construction sets tools earlier. This is a replacer for the vanilla door marker mesh, which is a lot more user-friendly because this is the size of, how we used that character marker before. This is the size of that bounding box, blue collision box. So it's the size of an NPC or a player character, essentially. So if we wanted to place our door marker and make sure that when we teleport into the cell, our character's not going to get stuck on anything, this is much better to use than the vanilla ones, where it's really hard to tell where my person actually going to get teleported to. Cool. That's our around the into the interior, and again we just do the same thing to get out as well. This time I'm going to search by, how to do this, load cell. It's not named. Can I type in the coordinates? 6. Nope, that's not giving me anything. Okay, so instead I'm going to type in SHEO to get me Sheogorad, and then I'm going to scroll down until I find the coordinates, and I know that the coordinates are 6, 22. It's the cell we've been working in. So here we go. Select that. Select marker. Oftentimes it's kind of, unfortunately, place the marker in a pretty weird place that bleeds through stuff. So you'll need to often kind of go underneath and do some digging to find where it's actually chucked it, but at least it'll have it selected, so you can just like hit C or T on your keyboard to focus the camera perspective around that marker. Click and drag it into position. So this is the door marker to go from the interior to the exterior. Go just here. Okay.
And there we have it.
Do we want to try the north marker real quick?
If you want to.
Yeah, see if we can bust that out. So you will take the, I'm just going to note these down. You take the rotation of the exterior door, and you take the rotation of the interior door. Which is not that one, it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
Which is 90 degrees. And then I do believe I have the guidelines somewhere north. Tamara Rebuilt's got it probably on the interior guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Probably just search it here. Yeah, cool. Right, that's the calculation. Fun maths.
Oh, that looks fun. Random Val mentions that
Ooh.
TR Discord has a bot that actually does the math for you.
Love that. Let's go with that then. Maths is not my strong suit. We'd get there eventually, but there's no need to waste your time with that. Okay, shall we wrap things up there?
Yeah, I think we can.
Alrighty. Thanks for everybody's patience there. I really appreciate it. This is my first time doing something like this on a stream, but I would like to do more now that I've got the setup to be able to do it. So hopefully you can share some more stuff like this.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be really interesting to. You covered so many things to have something more on detailing an area, like more specific things. So if you're willing to do more workshops, it would be really nice to have more from you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you.
All right, chat. Thank you so much for joining us. The video will be uploaded in a couple of days. You can ask questions in the mod along challenge. You can make your own mod as well, try things out. I'm sure the moment you open the construction set and you try doing things, you're going to have a lot more questions. So feel free to ask them. We're looking forward to seeing your mods. Tomorrow at the same time, Sector will tell us how to use some of the very, very useful features of Test 3 Command. And then next week, we will be diving into dungeon making with Sea Love, if, he's healthy again, and quests with Mort and myself. Until then, have a lovely, lovely evening, afternoon, morning, depending on the time. And we'll see you very soon. MassiveJuice, thank you so much for the workshop.
Thank you for having me.